The humid air of Subic Bay sticks to your skin, especially in the mid-afternoon heat of July. Inside the tactical training facility, the tension was even heavier. On one side stood Sergeant First Class Miller, a man carved from granite, the lead instructor for one of the West's most elite Special Forces units. He was here as part of a joint exchange program, a routine mission to upgrade local capabilities. To him, this was just another day at the office. Across from him stood Nang Ben, a man who seemed to belong to a different century. The local soldiers called him Lolo. He was nearly 70, with weathered skin and hands that looked like they tilled more soil than they clenched fists. In his hands, he held two battered rattan sticks. When the Philippine commanding officer introduced Lolo Ben as a master of the local arts, Miller couldn't hide a smirk. It was a smirk born from having the best gear, the best training, and the most money. He laughed quietly and turned to the elder. "Is this what we're up against today? I thought we were doing combat training, not a folk dance." The room, filled with young Filipino soldiers and Western operatives, went silent. The locals knew something Miller didn't. Lolo Ben didn't react. He simply stood there, his breathing slow and rhythmic. Miller stepped closer, towering over him. "In my world," he said, his voice low and gravelly, "we use what works: physics, speed, and overwhelming violence of action. Those sticks, they might have worked against Spanish swords 500 years ago, but against a modern fighter, they're just firewood." Lolo Ben finally spoke, his voice thin but carrying a strange weight. "The stick is just a teacher, Sergeant," he said in clear, accented English. "It teaches us about the snake, and how to live after the snake has bitten." Miller laughed again, a loud, booming sound. "Well, I'm not a snake, old man. I'm the thing that eats the snake. Let's see if your sticks can keep up with a real attack." Miller didn't wait. He moved with explosive speed, a lunging entry designed to bypass the sticks and grab the elder's throat. It was a move he'd used 100 times, a move that ended fights before they even began. But as his hands closed in, he found himself grasping at nothing but hot air. Lolo Ben had pivoted just 3 inches to the left, a ghost-like shift. As Miller's momentum carried him past, a sharp clack echoed through the hall. The rattan stick had found the back of his hand with a precise, stinging flick. Miller pulled back, surprised. A red welt was already rising on his knuckles. The smirk was gone, replaced by a flash of irritation. "Lucky shot," he hissed, resetting his stance. This time, he didn't lunge. He stayed low, closing the distance inch by inch, unleashing a barrage of heavy, linear punches. Lolo Ben didn't block them. To block would be to meet force with force, a battle he knew he would lose. Instead, he flowed. He moved with the rhythm of Sinawali, the weaving motions of the islands. The sticks weren't hitting Miller's head, they were hitting his arms. Every time he threw a punch, a stick would collide with his bicep, his forearm, or his elbow. This was the principle of defanging the snake. He wasn't fighting the man. He was systematically dismantling the man's weapons. Miller was growing frustrated. His arms felt heavy, numbed by the repetitive stings of the rattan. He realized that, as long as the elder had the sticks, he couldn't win the math of the fight, so he changed the game. In a sudden burst, Miller dived for a double-leg takedown, aiming to take the fight to the ground where his weight and strength would be decisive. He felt his shoulders hit the elder's waist. He felt victory within his grasp. But Lolo Ben didn't fight the takedown. He let go of his sticks entirely. The sticks clattered to the floor. For a split second, Miller thought he had won. But as he drove his weight forward, he felt a terrifying shift in his own center of gravity. Lolo Ben's empty hands found the pressure points behind Miller's ears and the soft tissue of his neck. Each He didn't push against Miller. He pulled Miller's energy into a circle. The 220-pound elite soldier felt like he was stepping off a cliff. His feet left the mat, and before he could process it, he was slammed onto his back. The air left his lungs in a single, violent gasp. Miller lay there, staring up at the flickering fluorescent lights. Lolo Ben stood over him, not with triumph, but with a look of profound, quiet peace. He reached down, picked up his sticks, and tucked them under his arm. The science of war had been systematically picked apart by a man who didn't even have a gym membership. Miller sat up, his face a mask of disbelief. He looked at his bruised arms, then at the small, elderly man. The arrogance that had defined him for 20 years didn't just break, it evaporated. What? What was that? Miller asked, his voice a whisper. Lolo Ben smiled gently. That is the story of my people, Sergeant. We are a small country. We have been invaded by the Spanish, the Japanese, the Americans. We could never win with more guns or more muscle. So we learned to be like the water. We learned to take your strength and give it back to you. We don't fight to be champions. We fight to go home to our families. Miller stood up, ignored the stinging in his limbs, and did something no one expected. He bowed. Deeply. From that day on, the curriculum at the Subic Bay facility changed. But in the untold history of an archipelago that refused to be broken, Miller stayed in the Philippines for an extra 6 months, not as an instructor, but as a student, learning that the greatest legends are often the ones the world overlooks. The Special Forces realized there was a level of mastery that no manual could teach, a bravery found not in a rifle. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to discover more stories of courage and tradition.